I want to start out by getting something out of the way because it doesn't fit in with the rest of what I want to say. But it's just as true. President Obama showed strength, leadership, and even genius by negotiating in private a deal for $20 billion in reparations from BP oil up front. Now, if you don't think so, just ask some of the people up at Prince William Sound, Alaska, who are still waiting, relying only on the court system, for their Exxon Valdez oil spill payments after 21 years. Well done, President Obama. That was showing real leadership. Now, here is the other side of the coin. There's an old saying out in Hollywood, get the right horse for the course. So, in normal times, we should elect a president who has grace, an even temper, patience, and a willingness to compromise with political opponents. And that is the president that we do have. But these are not normal times. Franklin Delano Roosevelt fought tooth and nail with his Republican political enemies, even saying that he welcomed their hatred, because that's what those times demanded. Well, those times are here again. But this time, we don't have a warrior on our side. We have, at best, an inspirational speaker who floats above the fray, as The Nation magazine recently put it, or worse, an enabler, a facilitator who continually gives the other side what it wants, no questions asked, no terms demanded, and sure enough, nothing is received in return. Let me ask you something. Yes, we can what? Change? No president in my lifetime has tried harder to keep the status quo. Look at his so-called change promises. Close Guantanamo in the first 6 months? Not going to happen. Maybe not ever. Prosecute the admitted torturers, Bush and Cheney? Why, that would look confrontational. And as WikiLeaks revealed just this week, the Obama administration hasn't just ignored these torture crimes, they have actively worked against the Spanish prosecutors and judges who wanted to bring these crimes into a courtroom. End the huge tax breaks for the richest among us? Well, that wouldn't be reaching across the aisle, now would it? In healthcare, support the public option that you promised to fight for? Well, the Republicans might not appreciate that. So, of course, he walked away from it the minute he was in office. Press for the type of single-payer plan that most other industrialized nations have? Sorry, he didn't even allow that option to be discussed. End the disastrous wars in Afghanistan and Iraq? Not on your life. Other presidents don't end losing wars until forced to do it. So why should he go against the norm? Why should he upset the status quo? And the status quo these days is the Republicans are openly vowing to give not one single inch, even to so-called centrist Democrats, much less to progressives. They are vowing to fight Obama to the bitter end on every single issue. And that is the status quo he is upholding. What does it take to get this guy to stand up and fight? By now, he has nothing left to lose. And the die-hard Democratic Party hacks actually have the nerve to blame the young and independent voters for not bothering to show up at the polls again this year after 2 years of Democrats kowtowing to big Wall Street, big banks, big military, and big Republicans. You remember that wonderful black lady, Velma Hart, who told President Obama at a town hall meeting last September that she was, quote, exhausted from defending him and his economic policies, unquote? Well, she spoke for so many of us. And of course now she's been laid off as well. You know, I remember leading up to the general election of 2008, right-wing friends of mine saying, "Well, you love Obama. He's the baby Jesus to you." And I wondered where they got that. I never said that about him. I wouldn't say that about any politician. In fact, I didn't even vote for him. I've been voting Green Party for years, though I admire Obama very much. But where did they get this impression that we progressives are just blindly enthralled to Obama, no matter what he does or what he doesn't do? Well, now at last I'm beginning to see what they meant. Because now if you stick to your principles instead of to Obama and to his so-called centrist Democrats and to the Democratic Party, you're accused of disloyalty, maybe even of racism. Let me ask you sports fans, are you disloyal when you go out to cheer your college team on to victory, but you see them not only lose time after time after time, but appear to be not even trying, so you start to boo them? Or are you simply showing your frustration and disappointment with their lack of effort? Aren't you really trying to get them to fight for themselves and to fight for you? If the quarterback keeps getting sacked because he hesitates too long before passing, don't you start yelling for the coach to put in a replacement? Folks, your loyalty is to the team, the United States of America, not to one player, not to the current quarterback. The right horse for the course. There have been many times when we needed a gentle, refined, graceful, highly educated man in the White House to bring us together by reaching out to political opponents, but this is not one of those times. Obama and Max Baucus and many other Democrats, but most of all, our current president, is simply a man who is not right for the times. Not that he doesn't have an admirable mission, I believe he does, but it's not the one we need most right now. His mission was basically to be a shining example, to bring us together by demonstrating that a black man could not only fit in without harming the power establishment, he could thereby bring us all closer together as a nation. But that is not the agenda Americans are now in the mood for. It's not the agenda they're desperate for. They are coming to realize in ever greater numbers that all the Republicans and far too many Democrats will not stop taking campaign money from and then helping big business get even fatter while it ships ever more jobs overseas, thereby ruining even more lives of the American working class. George Soros, a major Democratic Party donor, if ever there was one, is finally giving up on Obama and the mainstream Democratic Party. He's now advocating that we smaller donors give to other progressive institutions rather than to these current Democratic office holders. Paraphrasing what he said, "I can fight and lose, but I don't want to lose without fighting." What I'm about to say makes me very sad. But I have finally come at last to believe this. President Obama should simply step aside at the end of his first term. To twist an overused quote from The Godfather, he's not a wartime consigliere. Now, if he steps aside, he can reserve his right to run again at some future date, and then help us heal when this bitter internal political war is finally over. But this war will only get worse, far worse, in the short term. Right now, we desperately need a fighter. If we can't have Franklin Delano Roosevelt, we need a Russ Feingold, or a Bernie Sanders, or an Alan Grayson. We may not win, but there is honor in defeat, if only we join the fight.